Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today on the channel we are going to be learning how to draft a Victorian corset pattern. So after that, now you get your basic bodice measurement, which includes what I have on the screen. Then we are going to start by drafting a full scale bodice block. Now from this line I'm going to be taking all my vertical points because that is going to be like my shoulder line and my starting point. This line that I have here is going to be my center front line. The first thing you want to do is to come to the shoulder line and divide your shoulder measurement into two. Mark the points like so, and then you mark your neckline measurements. I'm going to be using the standard measurement 3 inches by 3 inches. Then I'm going to be connecting with a curve ruler to give me a round neckline. From this shoulder measurement, you go down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope. And from that shoulder slope, I'm going to connect to the neck width with a straight line to form a slant line like so. So the next thing is to create our chest line and at the same time our armhole line. So to do this, you're going to divide your bust circumference by 6 plus 1.5, or you just measure what you have on your shoulder measurement from the shoulder slope, just like you see me doing. So I'm going to measure from the top and I'm going to impute the measurement on the center front. Then I'm going to connect with a straight line. So that is automatically my chest line and at the same time a guide for me to create my armhole line. After the chest line, we are going to mark the bust point. So from the shoulder you measure down to your bust point line, or you go down by 2 inches from your bust point if you do not have the person's measurements. I'm going to measure forward just to be sure that just to have a straight line. Then after this I'm going to connect with a straight line. After the bust point line, I'm going to measure from my shoulder down to the under bust point line. So you take your under bust point measurement from the shoulder down to wherever it gets to. So for this one I'm using 13.5 inches as my under bust. So I'm going to mark it and connect with a straight ruler to form a straight line. After the under bust point line, you want to take your measurement down to your waistline. So from your shoulder line you are going to measure down to your upper waistline, just like you see me doing. So whatever value you are working with, you mark it and you connect with a ruler to form a straight line. After the waistline, then we want to measure from the shoulder down to the top length. So you can decide on the top length, but at the same time you don't want it to be too long. So from your waistline you can measure down to 5 or 6 inches after your waistline. So for this one I'm going to maintain the full length of this paper. On this line I'm going to measure and mark my shoulder measurement divided by 2, and on that point I'm going to connect back to the shoulder slope with a straight line. I'll find the midpoint of this line and mark. On my chest line I'm going to take my bust circumference divided by 4, and on that point that I marked earlier I'm going to go in by half an inch and I'm going to connect with my ruler like so. I'll start with a straight line to form a slant line and I'm going to continue by using my curve line. So from this center front line I'm going to be taking my bust span measurement divided by 2, starting from the bust point line down to the top length. After this I'm going to connect with a straight line. Before you proceed, go ahead and label your patterns accordingly. I'm going to be making use of this my marker pen so that it's going to show. I have my chest line, bust point, under bust, waistline and the top length. So go ahead and do the same thing. So the next thing we want to do now is to take the waist dart. On the waistline here, exactly on the waistline, you take half an inch on both sides of this line, and you can also do 0.75. So for this one, I'm taking 0.75 on both sides of the line, then I'm connecting back to the bust point line. Because it's a Victorian corset, we need more snatching around the waistline. So from the top length, you measure up to 1 inch, then you connect back to the waistline. After which you have connected your waistline like this, the next thing you want to do is to take your body circumference measurement. So on the chest line, we already have the bust circumference divided by 4. So you go to the waistline and take the waist circumference divided by 4 plus the dart intake that you had earlier. So for this one, I have 1.5 inches altogether. So I'm going to add the 1.5 inches to the original waist circumference divided by 4 and mark. On the top length, you are going to take your hip circumference divided by 4. There is no need of replacing any dart because there is no dart on the top length. After this, I'm going to connect all the points together just like you see me doing. So to help you contour your body, you need to watch the placement of your curve. So after this, the next thing I'm going to do now is to take the bust dart or the side dart. So for you to be able to do this, you're going to be making use of the difference between your front length and your back length. Naturally, the front length is different from the back length, especially in women. So whatever difference you have between your front length and your back length is what you are going to use to create the bust dart. From the bust point line, you go down by whatever value you're using. So for this one, mine is going to be 2 inches. Yours can be 1.5, can be 1. It can be less or more than that, but most of the time 2 inches work for most people. So I'm going to mark 2 inches like so, then I'm going to connect to the bust point line. So you are going to do the same thing. So if yours is 1.5, you measure 1.5 and connect to the bust point. For this one, I'm going to be using 2 inches. So the next thing you want to do after this is to come to this chest line and create our new chest line. But before that, I'm going to outline all these lines that I have here so that it will be more visible. The next thing to do now is the over bust tightening and the under bust tightening. So before we do that, we need to, you come to this shoulder slope and divide whatever you have there by 2. If you have an odd number, you can simply use your cm. It is quite easy to divide. So from that point, you're going to connect to the bust point with a straight line, although it's going to be slant, but just connect to the bust point like so. So after this, now we want to come to this initial chest line to determine our new chest line. So you go up by 1.5 or 2 inches. The highest you can do is 2 inches, but for this one, I'm going to maintain 1.5. So you measure and mark the 1.5 all through across the chest line, then you are going to connect with a straight line. So this is where we are going to have our over bust tightening. Okay, so now this also depends on how much more cleavage you want to open up. You can also measure on yourself or the person's body from the shoulder line to where exactly they want it to be. So if it is 7 inches, if it is 7.5, or if they want to open up their cleavage, you can simply measure. So if you want to have 1 inch, you're going to measure like so, and you're going to connect with a straight line. So this totally depends on the style or your preference. Okay, just decide on which of the lines you want to work with. So for this, I'm just going to maintain my 1.5 inches. So the next thing you want to do is to label as the new line, new chest line. So after this, you come to the under bust circumference. Come to the under bust line and take the under bust circumference measurement divided by 4. Whatever you have left, you divide into 2, but it's not going to be equal. So you take the highest value and put it on the side front and the lowest on the center front. So this one I have 1 inch, so I'm marking 0.75 towards the side front and 0.25 on the center front. So from this point, I'm going to connect back to my waist dart, just like you see me doing. All right, so you want to do this carefully from that point straight down. After that, you're going to connect to the bust point with a curve. So this time around, you want to avoid too much curve so that when you want to sew, it will not be too difficult for you. You will not have too much curve. So with that, we have done our under bust tightening. Okay, so now we want to do the over bust tightening. This totally depends on the preference or the size of the person you're working with. If it is a bigger size, you're going to be taking 0.75 on both sides, but for this one, I just measured 0.5 on both sides and connect back to the bust point line. So after this, you want to create your new chest line or your new neckline. All right, so for this, I'm going to be creating a sweetheart neckline, and the first thing I want to do is to start by using my free hand to connect from that point to the armhole. This totally depends on you. If you want it to be lower, if you want it to be higher, just decide on how you want it to be. Then after which I'm done using my pencil, I'm satisfied. I'm going to go ahead and highlight with my marker. Then on the center front line, you can decide to maintain the initial chest line, or you go up or you go down by half an inch, 1 inch, and so on like that. So this depends on how deep you want the neckline to be. So but for this one, I'm just going to maintain my chest line, the whole chest line. All right, just like that, and I have my sweetheart neckline. So after that, The next thing you're going to do now is the waist snatching, and this waist snatching we're also going to be using it to create a style line. So from the center front now, you go in on the waistline exactly to create a straight line, and at the same time you can decide to make the line slanted. But before that, we're going to be marking the corset length. So corset, generally you don't want it to be too long so that you'll be comfortable. So from your waistline, you measure and mark down to 5 inches or 5.5 inches, 6 inches maximum, so that when you are sitting down you'll be comfortable. So I'm going to mark 5.5 and I'm going to connect with a straight line, and that will be my new corset length or my new top length. Then if you want to have a basque effect, just extend from the top length down a little bit more, or you can come up by 1 inch or 1.5 from the side, so as to make it more visible. So you mark it like this, and you connect back to the center front with a straight line or a curved line, depending on the type of basque you want to have. But I'm not going to be making use of this. I'm just doing this for the sake of those that might want to have a basque waistline effect. So after this, now we are going to come to the center front line, and you divide into two, or you just use your discretion to divide this space that you have left, and you're going to connect either with a slant line like this, or you maintain a straight line. So you are going to connect with a straight line like so, and then you're going to be taking a dart on the waistline, exactly on the waistline. So this totally depends on how much more allowance you want to take, how much more inches you want to take away from your waistline. So here I'm going to be marking 0.25 on both sides. So that means I'm going to be having 0.5, and at the end of the day I'm going to be having 1 inches on fold. Remember, this is going to be 2, so that means I'm taking 1 inch away from my front pattern because I want to snatch my waist by 2 inches. Okay, so this is the first snatching. So you can do another one by the side if you like, but if you have to do another one, you need to close the bolster before that. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to open up this waist dart, or I just open up the shoulder line so that I'll be able to close my bust dart. After which you have opened the waist dart, you come to the bust point line and slash through up to the bust point, but do not cut it off. Then you move the one down, move the side front like so. Then after which I'm done, I'll tape it down like so. Then I'm going to blend the side, because by the time you close your bust dart, you're going to be having a bit of shortage by the side. So if you do not have enough paper, you can place a piece of paper underneath, tape it down and blend in the side. Then I'm also going to indicate the bust point line using an arrow, so this will help me when I want to transfer to my pattern. So if you want to have another snatching like this on the side, so just go ahead and divide the line into two, or use your discretion like so. Then on the waistline, you're going to be taking 0.25 on both sides, except if you want to take more than that. So if you are taking 0.5 on both sides, that means you're taking 1 inch, and that is going to be like 2 inches in total. I just hope I'm making sense with what I'm saying. I just hope you understand my explanation. So you're going to go ahead and do it like this, but for this one I'm not going to be snatching more than that. But for the sake of those time I want to snatch more than half an inch, just go ahead and do your snatching on this side front as well. So altogether you're going to be having like 4 piece or 4 pattern altogether. So the more lines you have, the more pieces you're going to have. So after this, now the next thing you want to do is to cut out your pattern, but before that you need to go ahead and label your pattern carefully. All right, so I'm going to be working with this center front dart. I'm not going to use the other one. So you're going to label the pattern in a way that you're going to understand. Is either you make use of letters or you make use of figures, and I'm going to use an arrow to indicate where each of the patterns are going to be facing. And remember that whatever you have, how many lines you have will determine how many pieces you are going to have, and each of these pattern piece I'm going to be cutting 2 of it. So this is what the front pattern set is going to look like. So if you cut this line, you're going to have a 4 piece of pattern in total, and by the time you want to cut on your fabric, you are going to be having 8. So now for the back pattern, now I already went ahead to trace my basic bodice block for the back as well. So the neckline is 3 inches by 1 inches, then my chest line, my waistline, and the top length. At the back, we do not need the bust point and the under bust line because we do not have a bust at the back rather. So here you do not need a zipper allowance except if you want to have a zip. So the first thing I'm going to do is to tighten my chest line. I'll be taking 0.25 on both sides of the line for the chest line and also the top length. And I'm going to connect back to my waist dart. This is just to ensure enough tightening. After this, now the next thing you want to do is to take the body circumference measurement. So on the waistline, I'm going to be taking the waist circumference divided by 4 plus my dart intake, do not forget. Then on the hip line, I'm going to take the hip circumference divided by 4, and I'm going to replace that 0.5 that we use for the tightening, and I'm going to connect like so. We already take our bust circumference divided by 4 when we are doing the chest line. Now you need to come to this side back to divide into 2 to do your snatching again. So if you want to snatch the back by 1 inch, you know what to do. So I'm going to be snatching on one side so I don't have too many pieces at the back. Okay, I'm on a smaller side, so I just need one line at the back. So I'm going to divide this line into 2 like so and connect with a straight line. So after that, I'm going to be taking 0.25 on both sides of the line because I still want to take out 1 inch from the back as well. Remember I said I want to take out 2 inches from my initial measurement. So I'm just going to go down by 1 inch from the chest line and connect back to the waistline, just like you see me doing, and back to the top length, but not exactly on the top length. So that will be all for the snatching of the back as well. So in total, I have 1 inch. So the next thing you want to do is to work on the lacing bar. So for the lacing bar, you are going to decide on if you want to have a straight line or an inverted line. So I'm taking out 2 inches from my waist, that is 26 inches. Now the next is to work on the lacing bar. So for the lacing bar, you can decide on how you want it to be. So from the center back, you can go in by 1.5 or even 2 inches. This depends on what exactly you're trying to work with. And at the same time, you can make it a straight line, and at the same time you can make it a slant line. So from the top here, I'm just going to go ahead and measure 1 inch. I don't want it to open up too much, all right, so that I will not be needing modesty panel. Then I'm going to connect with a straight line like so, and here I'm going to be having my eyelet or my loop. So if you want to have a loop or eyelet, it's going to be exactly on this pattern that I'm marking it, because this center back line, we're going to be cutting it off. We do not need it. All right, so from the chest line, you go down by half an inch or 1 inch to create a new neckline at the back. Then you connect to the armhole. It can be straight line, it can also be a curved line. All right, and at the yoke, you can decide to alter the yoke to whatever you like, but for this one, I'm not going to be making use of a yoke, so there will be no need for that. Now the next thing I'm going to do now is to bring in my front pattern, the side fronts, because I want to make sure the side aligns. As you can see, the line aligns automatically, except for the 1 inch I subtract from the side to create a curved hemline. So I'm going to do the same thing at the back, and I'm going to connect like so. So that will be all for the back. So the next thing you want to do is to cut out the back pattern. All right, but before that, I would like to label my pattern. So this is my center back one, and I'm going to use an arrow to indicate where it is facing, the mid back or the center back 2. Then I'm going to use an arrow to indicate as well, then the side back. So after this, I'm going to indicate that I do not have a seam allowance, so I'm going to be adding a seam allowance on my fabric. All right, so you just go ahead and do whatever you wish, and at the same time you can also indicate the upper parts so you don't get confused, especially at the back pattern. It's always confusing. Then by the side, if you have enough paper, you can just go ahead and take your sewing allowance immediately, and you can do that on your fabric. So guys, that'll be all, and next thing I'm going to do for the back now is to cut out the pattern. So guys, thank you very much for watching up to this moment. So this back is going off like so. We're going to cut out the darts as well. All right, so just pay close attention to what I'm going to be cutting. So guys, thank you very much for watching up to this moment. And if you watch this video up to this moment and you are yet to subscribe to the channel, please, what are you waiting for? Hit on the subscribe button now, hit on the notification bell, so that you'll be the first person to know whenever I drop a new video, especially the part 2 of this particular tutorial. So guys, here is the back pattern. As you can see, it looks very similar. That is why you need to indicate the upper part and the down part. Is really important. Okay, so that'll be all for the back, and here is our front pattern sets. Okay, so the cutting and sewing is going to be coming up soon, immediately after I drop this video. Till next time that we meet in my next tutorial, bye bye and take care of yourself. Thank you.